the feature, Mr. Martin Joseph. We go back a number of years now. We go back a number of years. He has a good sense of humor. He has performed here before, bringing songs of wit and wisdom, both very well mixed actually. Classic pieces, meandering pieces, wandering pieces. He has a lot of different ways he delivers the poems. He has a lot of different styles that he works with. He is professional, polished, a comedian in his own mind. He laughs like a wild man sometimes. But we're going to hear him read this evening. He is all set to go. I'm believing yes, you're all set to go. You're going to be going on a journey. It'll be a lot of fun. I would like you to welcome Mr. Martin Joseph to the microphone. A really good round of applause. This is going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to this.
Good evening, Sacred Grounds.
Good evening, Mr. Martin Joseph.
When we set up this feature, it was about 6 months ago, I thought I would be reading some of my more recent ones and maybe even a new one or two, but that has changed. Tonight, it's going to be dedicated to my friend of 53 years, let me not exaggerate, Alan Acacia. Alan Acacia has been a feature here at Sacred Grounds before, and you may remember him.
Yes.
I met Alan in 1964 when we were both going to Pasadena High School. He'd been transferred there from the Catholic schools that his mother had sent him to. And in my junior year, he became my friend for a long, long time. And so I'm going to take you back. So tonight is dedicated to Alan. He's just been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. So he's got a couple months. This one is called Alan at the Bus Stop. It started in the springtime. 16 is a good age to find a friend. Out by the Safeway that stood by the afternoon sun, with its 10-cent bottles of cola and special introductory 5-cent double scoop ice cream cones. The scene is on the corner of Sierra Madre Boulevard and Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena. Alan is sitting on the bus stop bench, hands folded between his knees, forming a slightly narrow arch between themselves, his eyes peering through the bulges of lenses transfixed as the man gazing upon a newborn child or straining in the perception of a unifying idea, to grasp the real with a new understanding. God unto man, man unto God, and whether to take up the chessmen to move without or to thrust into the forge a new set of rules, or no rules at all, or turn simply into another setting, another hamburger. Tyra has gone, Martin. I loved her. It was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Nice. I'm going to take you very quickly through 53 years in 20 minutes. In 1967, we lived in Pasadena, California, in a place called the Flash Complex. It was so named because the underground newspaper in Pasadena, California was called The Flash of Pasadena, and it was published by a roommate of ours, David Ladig, who later became a roommate up here in San Francisco as well. And this is a picture of the Flash. It was originally known as Little Mississippi because it was the quarters for the servants of the gentry in Pasadena, who had primarily come from Mississippi and Louisiana. And prominent among them was Old Ted, who was in his 80s back in the 60s. And there's a little bit. I'll put these on the table afterwards so you can see them in the break. And it was also occupied by these crazy young men. This is the local park in Pasadena, And this is Alan on the swing, and another friend of ours. And we were young. We were having a good time. It was a time, though, yes, it included 67 and 68. Those were very, very heavy times when Martin Luther King was assassinated. The local Baptist Friendship Church broadcast his I Have a Dream speech loud enough that you could hear it throughout the neighborhood. What I remember was when Alan first moved into the Flash complex, I visited him, and he was swabbing down this little cottage with DDT, trying to get rid of the cockroaches there. And the DDT, he told me, had an effect on him. He said, I had this dream last night, Martin, that I woke up in the middle of the night and there were these two giant cockroaches at the foot of my bed, and one of the cockroaches was saying to the other one, shall we eat him here or take him home with us? And the other cockroach replied, we better eat him here. If we take him home, the big guys will get him. Imaginative guy. I guess that's what DDT will do. Yeah, I also eventually, it took me many years, learned what manic depression is actually about. Because what happens is that the Alan that I knew and that I met was the manic Alan, and he was radiant. He would glow. He was so active. And it took many years before I realized that manic depressives are like that in their manic stage, but they hide the depressive side. And you don't find that because it tends to be private, and they learn how to hide the depressive side. So when you wonder where did they go, that's where it went. And Alan was kind of a manic depressive. Eventually, he eventually, in the last 5-6 years, got over that, but we're talking about decades. And so when he was 45, I'm going to actually bring you back to 1972 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because some kids got it into their heads that it would be funny to buzz all of the bells in this apartment building at once and see what happened. And what happened was that all of the residents that were in this apartment building in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, came out onto the balcony and wondered who was buzzing them. And of course the kids had run away. But what happened was that Alan met a young woman named Kimberly Brees and befriended her. She had lived one floor above him, and they saw one another through the railing. And that is one of those butterfly effect things where the butterfly flaps its wings in the Amazon forest and a tsunami hits Japan. That buzzing of those kids resulted eventually in my getting together with her and having my daughter, Vanessa June, who then has Molly June and Hattie Ann, and that is the tsunami that resulted from the butterfly flapping of wings in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1972. Alan was kind of the catalyst to all of that. So I move ahead because for his 45th birthday, I wrote him a poem called What to Do While Waiting for Death. You really should have come with me that day when I got up the gumption to drive to Monterey to hear Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Otis Redding, and Mama Cass. They needed you. Because of all of us, you could go nuts over music. You, the madman, feeling the beat of the loving spoonful so intensely that it could drown out your own madness. Eyes closed, drumming complex ham-bone rhythms on your knee. I knew then what rock and roll meant, because I could see it in you. You, The madman that followed the dancing lights on the bay. You waded out to the edge of too far to gather them up in your hands. You made us create sirens of our own to woo you back to land. You, the madman, must know that yesterday and tomorrow have some connection. When purple haze turns to local Oakland blues blaring out to a passing BART train. Look at those passengers. They all have their own troubles, of course, but who among them could find something good to say about Pasadena? Who among them could be so amazed at the incessant regularity of handmade scenes? So what if the majority of those incessant black hairs have gone gray? Can they claim in creeping clumps so many orange-red Berkeley sunsets, so many quiet nights with friends? Janice, queen of the blues, wherever you are, I call upon you to wail for my friend Alan. Wail for him, for he has many days ahead. Wail for him, because while he's not hounded by the same intensity, he has tamed some of it into wisdom. Wail for him, because this man leaves good deeds behind in the paths that he treads. Yes, I know that he's broken some hearts and that he's screwed up some dreams, including many of his own. But baby, wail for him anyway, because I've screwed up too, and you know you have too. Wail for him because the act of making something not to be is as important as the act of making something to be. This man, before he's done, will cause many things not to be. He will provide the implements for disease, not to be. He will provide the means for accidents of birth, not to be. He will, because he cares so much, cause many people's future pain, not to be. Wail for him, Janice, because some of that mania is still there, and so is some of that ham-bone rhythm. 45 is not so damned old, my man. There's still time to thwart the Secret Service and pop off Nixon before he dies of natural causes. There's still time to find some way to share time with those who love you and with those who you love. Those lights are still dancing out there, my man. Here, roll up this newspaper, stand out over the bay at sunset, take a Miles Davis stance, and blow a long, long trumpet solo.
Yeah.
Oh! I mentioned that Alan had many decades battle with manic depression, and this is one of his poems that I'm going to read two of Alan's poems. This is one of Alan's. It's called Marie Reminds Me That the Sky is Blue. People are different. For years I have studied this plum tree in my yard, the way it grows and branches. I shape it for the fruit. It grows like crazy. Now I have to shave off 8 feet from the tops each and every year. I know that tree so well, but hard to believe, I have forgotten that the sky is blue. I see it every day, but it has no color. It has no color, especially when I am down. Marie finally noticed this, not me. Now she makes it a small habit to remind me that the sky is blue. I look. How true it is. How deep is that blueness? I haven't seen it in years. I marvel that the sky comes back to me very blue, and that Marie is my colorful friend. Marie lived with Alan for nearly 20 years. So I wrote a second poem about Alan. And it was actually the very first poem that I read back in December of 2010 here at the Sacred Grounds. It was called My Friend Has Fallen Down the Well. My friend has fallen down the well. I try to get him to look upwards to the blue sky, and so do a number of his friends. The media is not interested in his plight, since it has already given national attention to a story like this, and the little girl had better demographics. Still, my friend makes the best of it. He has painted his portion of the well a kind of mango color and strung out small white lights to create a path to him when it is dark. His girlfriend goes down to visit him, and they have carved out a small space for living down there. He's created tunnels to the nearby market and begun to cultivate a small toothbrush garden out the back. Since it is in Berkeley, it is not so bad living at the bottom of a well. With our eyes opened, we soon realized that there were wells all over Berkeley, and millions more across the country, each having a person at the bottom with or without a toothbrush garden. Still, it is the bottom of a well. Many times his friends have gathered at the well's opening and urged him to climb out. He says he appreciates our sentiments and that he would if he could, but he has fallen down a well. Now, the top of the well has become a social gathering point. His friends gather, sip white wine, and recall the times when he glowed with an aura of bright yellow light. I would say white light, but there was always a tinge, a discoloration, and somehow women found that to be particularly interesting. During those manic times, he would channel the Love and Spoonful song about Coconut Grove, or come across some simple but profound realization about the nature of things. We all encourage the return of that yellow light. We hope for it for ourselves almost as much as for him. We remind him that the sky is still blue, except when it is not. The place we lived in 1974-75 in San Francisco over on 21st and Castro was called Tortilla Flat. This is Alan recording some of his poetry back in the 70s. And this is a black and white photo of some redheaded guy. I believe it looked a lot like me at the time.
Yeah, it's a lot like you at the time.
And the much younger Alan. And this is what Alan looks like. I took this photo of him on Monday.
Wow.
So he is handling this, I don't know about bravery. Bravery, he is doing everything as well as could possibly be, given all of the circumstances. He's just facing it and dealing with it. And look at that smile. Wow. So he read a poem here in his feature that I'm going to read again for him. It's called Stumblebum Bodhisattva. I asked to be sent back to earth. I'm here again, whiskered and hungover. I must have forgot how discouraging things are, for I'm tired and I've shrunk and I've taken antidepressants and smoking cigarettes. I need to accept every fucking thing. I return to help us. We suffer so. Mud sucks at our feet. That means my feet too. I whine, I complain, I barely lift a reclusive finger. I breathe out little breaths of clarity and calm when in past lives I could blow out sunny breezes. Or perhaps not. I can't recall. That doesn't matter. If I make it, I will come back here for more. When I told him I was going to have the feature and dedicate it to him, he requested one. He said, please read one poem. It's his favorite poem of mine. How could you deny that? So here we go. It's a poem that he particularly liked called Red Bell Pepper. These days are crushed into compact, chewy bits of labor. I remember the sunlight and feel around for precancerous cells on my forehead. Down the hall there is a clerk listing statistics. I am added to the skilled labor doesn't save category. I am not one of them. I am a statistic to be molded. Tonight, when I leave the office tower, I must remember that 17 years ago today we stood in the sunshine and made our vows. I must remember to remember, because at each turn in the hall someone will divert my mind. I have 2 arms loaded with details. I bend to pick up another and several fall from the top of the pile. I reach escape velocity, and the tower falls behind me. On my windshield with the taillights of traffic comes a vision of you, back then, wearing that black and white dress, carefree of an afternoon, sliding yourself over a corner of my desktop. I am older now and have learned that flowers, even though I do not understand them, are the right acknowledgement. I wade through the Safeway lines looking for them. I want a species of flower that doesn't exist anywhere else. I look at the iris and I think of stealing that first kiss from you when I was half crazy alone and worried about the other half. I look at carnations, red and pink, and think of the woman who has stood by me to raise my child while teaching others to keep me from living in some hurricane-ravaged sty, to keep me from showing up smelly and dirty clothes when I face the world. I look at the little white flowers, whatever they're called, and I think of the thousands of little events, little stories that you've brought home to share, a few green leaves to give us background, to feel our roots mingling in a common ground. On the way out through the produce section, my eye is drawn to a single red bell pepper. I pick it up and roll it between my hands like a sculptor imagining art within a stone. I see in it the roundness of your features traced by the tips of my fingers. You have adopted the Chinese way of not expressing love in public. The flowers are brought into your kitchen are a different story. I present them to you as you are preparing the dinner salad. I see your eyes well up and then widen as you ask, "The flowers are lovely, but how on earth did you know that I needed this red bell pepper for the salad?" There's a 30-second one that he requested. May I? He also requested this one written back, 1969, so 38, whatever that is, 48 years ago, something like that. A long time ago. It's very simple, short, so short that I even know it. It's called It Doesn't Matter. It doesn't matter. Therefore, it doesn't matter that it doesn't matter. Since it doesn't matter that it doesn't matter, I am free to choose. I choose for it to matter. Therefore, it matters. Thank you, Sacred Ground.
Thank you, Joseph.